Every backroom story starts the same way. Somebody slips. One wrong step, one moment of bad luck, and reality just lets go of you.
Okay. Oh no. I know what this is. Oh god. Oh no. Okay, so for the record, I've no-clipped here in a video game about space, which is itself a fake infinite space. To land in a fake infinite space, inside the fake infinite space. I just want that on the record, right? Before some entity comes and eats me.
On May 12, 2019, someone posted a photo to a paranormal thread on 4chan. An empty room, faded yellow wallpaper, worn carpet, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. The prompt was simple: post images that just felt off. Nothing in the photo itself was threatening. No figures, no damage, no story. It just felt wrong. Hours later, an anonymous reply gave it a name. If you're not careful and you no-clip out of reality in the wrong areas, you'll end up in the backrooms. That single sentence is the entire founding text of this genre. No characters, no plot, just a warning. No-clip itself predates all of this by decades, and the actual story behind it is stranger than the term suggests. Back in 1993, Doom's name was so short and catchy that id Software's own forums got buried under identical "Where can I get Doom" posts. Someone joked that their next game should have a title so long and clunky it would scare off anyone too lazy to really care. Their example was smashing pumpkins into small piles of putrid debris. id Software liked the joke enough to bury its acronym, SPISPOPD, inside the game itself. Type IDSPISPOPD into Doom's console, and you'd walk straight through walls. Players started calling the trick an id clip, and over the following decades that wore down into the simpler, more descriptive no-clip, slipping through a boundary that should have stopped you. 30 years later, that's the exact word an entire horror genre now uses to describe slipping out of reality. Some people online insist the image and the phrase existed even earlier, as far back as 2011 or 2009, though there's no verifiable proof of that. And Google's search data shows zero interest in the term backrooms before 2019. It's possible that's just the internet's version of the Mandela effect, a space that feels so much like every anonymous office or hallway you've actually stood in that your brain convinces you it's a memory, not an invention. That familiarity is the whole engine of the fear. Psychologists call it liminality, the discomfort of in-between spaces. Hallways, lobbies, waiting rooms, places designed to be passed through, never stood in. Researchers have described the specific unease as threat ambiguity, the sense that something might be wrong without enough information to confirm it, which keeps your brain stuck trying to resolve a puzzle it can't solve. It's the same mechanism behind the uncanny valley, something almost right, but not quite. Except here it's not a face, it's an entire building. Within weeks, the idea stopped belonging to any one person. There was no rights holder, no canon, no author to say what counted and what didn't, so a whole community built directly on top of it. People started mapping levels. Level 0, the original yellow maze, where the laws of space stop applying and walking in a straight line can return you to where you started. Level 11, once an endless, habitable cityscape, until later additions to the lore had it destroyed by an in-universe cult and renamed the Ruined City. Level 94, borrowing the colour and dread of old children's cartoons. The pool rooms, a calmer, waterlogged level that actually started life as an unrelated art project before the community folded it in. It became something like a horror version of the SCP Foundation, an open source mythology anyone could add a room to.
Which is funny, because I'm pretty sure I've just done that for real, except nobody's debugging anything. At least I don't think so. Someone was living here. Actually living here. Cups, shoes. This isn't set dressing. This is someone rationing.
Every era of Backrooms lore has its missing person, someone who fell in and stayed long enough to leave evidence that they were once a person and not just a rumour.
Yeah, I'm not sticking around to become the next exhibit. Thank you very much. That's the only colour I've seen since I've got here. Everything else is this nothing white. And now there's red. Red on purpose.
Colour is doing more work in this genre than people give it credit for. Yellow has a long horror pedigree. It's the colour of Charlotte Perkins Gilman's 1892 story, The Yellow Wallpaper, where a woman's confinement in a room she believes is alive slowly unravels her mind. It's the colour of the Italian giallo thriller genre, named after the yellow pulp novel covers that inspired it. Stanley Kubrick painted the Overlook Hotel's most infamous corridors yellow for this exact reason. Wherever yellow shows up in horror, it tends to mean the same thing: madness, decay, a mind or a place coming apart from the inside. This place has none of that history to draw on. No stain, no water damage, no fingerprint, nothing here to misremember, because nothing here ever happened at all.
So it's not haunted by the past, it's just erased. Blank on purpose. That's worse somehow.
By 2022, the Backrooms already had hundreds of fan-built levels and its own wiki. Then a 16-year-old filmmaker, going by Kane Pixels, uploaded a 9-minute short film that would eclipse almost all of it. He'd already spent years experimenting with visual effects, surreal shorts, a found footage style retelling of Attack on Titan, before returning to a Backrooms photo he'd seen and deciding to build his own liminal space from scratch in Blender, starting with nothing more than a single shot of a chair being thrown down a hallway. The Backrooms found footage went up in January 2022, framed as a recovered tape from 1996. Within weeks, it had gone properly viral. It currently sits north of 75 million views. Rather than the sprawling, community-built level system, Kane built his own self-contained mythology around a single company, Async Research. In his version, Async stumbles onto a doorway into this space using something they call a low-proximity magnetic distortion system, the Threshold. And their vice director, Ivan Beck, immediately sees it as the future of real estate. Limitless storage, limitless housing, built inside a pocket dimension for a fraction of the construction cost. What follows is a slow unravelling. Research teams sent in to map the space start finding evidence that something's already living there. A body, preserved unnaturally by mutated, fast-spreading bacteria. Missing person reports spike. One researcher, Peter Tench, gets separated from his team and reappears months later, having experienced only a few hours from his own point of view, pulled forward through time by the space itself. Async fakes his death rather than deal with the scandal, holds him underground for his own good, and watches him unravel until he escapes back into the complex entirely, armed, and is never seen again in the same way. Threaded through all of this is a single recurring presence Kane's fans nicknamed the Lifeform Fellow. Not a catalogue of monsters, just one ambiguous towering shape that mimics human voices to lure people out of hiding.
So, Kane Pixels' version misremembers you. His is haunted by a bad copy. This is just absence. Okay, everything here is straight lines. Every wall, every panel, every doorway, right angles, right angles, right angles. So run. Okay. That thing shouldn't be allowed to be round. It's not trying to look like a person. It's not mimicking anything. It's just a shape. A shape that doesn't belong to the vocabulary of this place. I've been keeping track, right? Like, my mental map is pretty good. Upstairs, downstairs, the hole I fell through. None of that leaves room for this. This is bigger than the outside of the building I'm apparently in.
The most recent addition to this mythology came from the feature film adaptation, and it reframed everything that came before it. Its central family of monsters are called still lifes, Backrooms copies of real living people remembered just slightly wrong. Wrong faces, wrong clothes. Close enough to recognise, close enough to unsettle. One character in the film describes it like being asked to draw a dog after only ever having it described to you. The theory the film leaves us with is that the Backrooms aren't a place that was built. They're a place that remembers. Every scene, every object, a snapshot of somewhere real, replayed slightly worse, forever, getting a little more wrong every single time it repeats.
This place was never anything to begin with. It's not a bad memory. It's the space where a memory would go if nothing had ever been here. No doors, no branches, no landmarks, just more of the same. Nothing. Just in the dark this time.
If white is the colour of erasure, black might be what is left after even the erasure is gone.
Great, thanks. Very comforting. I love that for me.
Every version of this mythology agrees on one rule above all else. Being noticed is fatal. It's there in the very first anonymous post. God save you if it's heard you. It's true of the Lifeform Fellow, true of the Still Lifes, true of nearly every fan-made level and every entity added since. Even when Hollywood tried this story on television and got almost everything else wrong, turning ambiguity into a very literal, very loud parade of hooded figures, they still kept that one rule intact, because without it, the genre doesn't really work.
No Man's Sky. No, 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 no. No Man's Sky. No, 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 no. No Man's Sky.